I'm Amy Cherry. This local news is a service of Flagler County's Toyota dealer, Beaver Toyota, here to wow ya. A former Bunnell police officer is heading back to prison, Tony Magoo reports.
He was out of prison for just 15 days. Just 2 weeks out and he was running afoul of the law. Former Bunnell police officer Michael Stavros, 34, of Palm Coast, was arrested on February 26th because he failed to meet the conditions of his probation. And he's been a guest at the Sheriff Perry Hall inmate detention facility ever since. Yesterday, Stavros was before a judge and was offered a plea deal by Assistant State Attorney Melissa Clark. The plea was for the resolution of his violation of probation charge, along with his new charges of felony child abuse, fraud through the use of personal identification, and stalking. Stavros took the deal. He gets 5 years for the probation charge and another 10 years on the new charges. He also has to do 5 years of sex offender probation after he gets out. We consider this resolution a success, and I'm glad to see that Stavros will go back to prison for a long time, Sheriff Rick Staley said. For Flagler's Morning News, I'm Tony Magoo.
This portion of Flagler's Morning News brought to you by the Daytona Beach International Airport, Sunwing Airlines nonstop to Toronto, and now nonstop service to New York City via American Airlines.
A janitor at Old Kings Elementary School is dead in a crash that involved a student. Troopers say it happened Wednesday afternoon outside Matanzas High School. The FHP says a 17-year-old driver from Bunnell was turning left out of the parking lot near the football stadium when he veered into the path of Mark Radcliffe of Palm Coast, who was on a motorcycle. The motorcycle slammed into the driver's side of the teen's vehicle. Troopers say Radcliffe wasn't wearing a helmet and later died at the hospital. He had been working on the night crew at Old Kings Elementary since January, according to school officials. It's unclear whether charges are being filed in the crash.
The city of Bunnell is doing what it can to help its homeless.
This week we've looked at the issue of homelessness in Palm Coast, Flagler County as a whole, and now in Bunnell. City Commissioner John Rogers said, like Palm Coast Mayor Melissa Holland and Flagler County Commissioner Joe Mullins said, helping the homeless has to be a coming together of everybody.
We just established a panhandling ordinance, and we're trying to do our part, but it's got to be a public and a private working together to try to solve this problem.
Rogers, like the others, said the homeless could not be moved from one community to another. They must be helped where they are. But Rogers said if the homeless do not want help, they won't get help. Flagler County Sheriff's officials warned the homeless living in an encampment on the Palm Coast Library property this week that they could face arrest and prosecution if they did not leave, since, as the sheriff's warning said, they were trespassing. From the WNZF Newsroom, I'm Deb Albertson.
A bill sponsored by a local state lawmaker receives overwhelming support. John Arking has more.
House Bill 1113, also known as the Patient Savings Act, was sponsored by Republican State Representative Paul Renner of Palm Coast and passed the State House by a unanimous vote. Under the bill, healthcare providers would be required to post costs of medical services online so that consumers could compare prices and then decide which service, product, or procedure is their best value. The bill then allows them to recoup up to 25% of the savings from insurers. Renner says the bill has the potential to save consumers a lot of money, but not in every circumstance.
It only applies to shoppable services, which is to say something that's not an emergency. If you're in an ambulance, you're not shopping for your health care, obviously. But if it's a knee surgery, shoulder surgery, these kinds of things, there's quite a lot of them. We include pharmaceuticals. So if we're able to get to a point where we're able to do some importation out of Canada or overseas, the savings could be very, very dramatic, and that would go right to the consumer's bottom line.
Companion legislation is currently working its way through the Florida Senate. You can hear Renner's full interview on the Free for All Friday podcast at WNCF.com. From the WNZF Newsroom, I'm John Early.
We are thrilled about that.
That's Flagler County Schools Superintendent Jim Tager talking about the latest U.S. News and World Report rankings, where both Flagler, Palm Coast, and Matanzas high schools ranked in the top 1/3 of all public high schools. Tager tells us what went into the rankings.
Students are not only graduating at a higher rate, but they are also taking accelerated courses. So we have more kids that are taking advanced placement, dual enrollment. We have IB, and we also have students taking the Cambridge curriculum, which is also an international program. So as kids take, if you can get the two things together, you're in sync. So in other words, the grad rate's getting higher and the kids are taking tougher courses. So that's how you move your way up that list.
He also credited students, parents, faculty, and staff in helping achieve the ranking. Matanzas High School ranked 215th in the state, and Flagler Palm Coast High School ranked 235th. And now you're up to date on Flagler's Morning News. I'm Amy Cherry.